What is up, everybody? Welcome to Paiper Zombie Productions. I am Paiper Zombie, your host for this session. And tonight we are getting into the final part of 1031, ZTV's newest and only pitch so far of the year. So we've got a lot to get through tonight. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it, shall we? We catch up with Penny, who has just gotten home from work. She receives a call moments after sitting her purse down on the kitchen counter. It's her doctor's office. An appointment was canceled at the last minute, and they want to know if she would like to come in instead of waiting for her original appointment later in the week. Penny says yes. That'll save her from needing to take time off work. Picking back up her purse, Penny lets LJ, who's also at home and upstairs getting ready to go to a Halloween party, know that she's going to her doctor's appointment, and she heads out. Outside in the garage, Penny notices that the side door leading into the garage from the backyard is slightly open. Penny shakes her head. She's gotten onto LJ and Lori 1,000 times about not making sure that the door is closed all the way before they just walk off and leave it. Going over to it, Penny shuts and locks the door. As she turns back around to head towards the car, she's startled to see that she isn't alone. Standing 3 feet away from her is what she thinks is a man. They're clad in the same pair of dark coveralls and white Halloween mask as the one who was at Michael's childhood home, and the one that was outside of Lori's school. Who it is, Penny doesn't know, and neither do we. So we will call this person the Shape. Penny stumbles as she tries to back away. She falls and hits her head on the doorknob of the door she just shut and locked. The impact knocks her out. But that's not enough. The Shape draws near, pulling a butcher knife out of the side pocket of its coveralls. The Shape is about to strike when it hears the water go on inside the house. Changing course, the Shape leaves Penny and ventures inside. Upstairs, LJ is showering with his music on full blast. He never hears the bathroom door as it comes open, and the Shape steps inside. Down in the garage, Penny recovers from her knockout and sees that the door to the house is open. Fearing for LJ, she grabs one of her son's old bats from the nearby bins and goes inside to find him. The song LJ is listening to ends just as Penny calls to him for the 6th time. Wondering how he can hear his mother so well through a closed door, LJ pulls the curtain back and sees that the bathroom door is open. No one else is in there but him. LJ turns his music off just as the next song is about to begin and calls back to Penny. She tells him to put his robe on and to come downstairs immediately. Unsure of why his mother is calling him and annoyed that she's dragging him out of the shower, LJ turns off the water, puts on his robe, and goes to see why he's being called. He exits the bathroom just as Penny is reaching the top of the stairs. Just as LJ is asking what's going on, the Shape walks out of Penny and Lou's room. With Penny being the closest target, the Shape goes after her first. Penny defends herself with the bat, beating the Shape about the body. It doesn't seem to faze them. When she tries to strike the Shape in the head, the Shape halts her swing with one hand and uses the free hand to grab her by the throat and choke her. LJ springs into action. Grabbing a nearby vase, he smashes it over the Shape's head. The Shape launches Penny across the hall, and her body falls still due to oxygen deprivation. The Shape staggers for a moment before it regains its composure and focuses in on LJ. With the Shape now hot on his trail, LJ runs downstairs and attempts to escape through the front door. He throws it open and prepares to run out, but the Shape grabs his outstretched hand and snatches him roughly back into the house. LJ is sent stumbling and skidding across the floor away from the door. The Shape shuts the door and locks it. Then it proceeds in LJ's direction. Getting back to his feet, LJ makes a run for the back door and successfully makes it out. A look over his shoulder shows him that the Shape is still on him. Unfortunately, LJ doesn't see the water hose coming up in front of him. Its presence is announced when he trips over it and falls. The Shape moves in, brandishing its butcher knife. LJ sees the butcher knife come out and kicks the hand holding it. The move surprises the Shape and gives LJ the moment he needs to get up and get moving again. The Shape recovers just as LJ has taken those first running steps. The boy is just in range for the Shape to take a swipe at his back with the knife, and that's exactly what the Shape does. The blade slashes through the thick fabric of LJ's robe and scores the tender flesh underneath. But the attack isn't nearly enough to impair him, however, and LJ continues his escape around the side of the house and over the fence. The shape stays on him and is just in range to take another swipe at him as he climbs over the fence. The slash scores LJ's left foot just before it makes it over the fence with the rest of him to safety. As a result of the adrenaline running through his body, LJ feels none of the pain. He doesn't wait to see if the shape is coming over the fence after him. He immediately gets to his feet and runs to the house across the street from his. Meanwhile, from his patrol car, Lou tries to call Penny and receives no answer from her cell. He calls the house. No answer there. Knowing that LJ should be around the house, Lou calls him. It goes unanswered. Concerned, he and Sam make Lou's house the next destination. Back at the house across the street, LJ hasn't bothered to call the police. There isn't enough time. His mother is still in the house, and it's possible that the person who attacked the both of them has gone back in to finish her. LJ was hoping to enlist his friend Ollie, who lives in the house across the street, and his parents as reinforcements. However, Ollie's parents have already gone out to a party of their own for the evening. So, armed with 2 metal baseball bats, the 2 boys return to LJ's house through the back door. They make their way upstairs, hearing Penny coughing as she recovers from the shape's earlier attack. LJ checks on his mother while Ollie checks for the shape. The shape is in Lori's room and exits when it hears the new voices. Ollie swings and strikes the shape in the head. It's enough to daze the shape and sends it staggering back into Lori's room. Ollie swings again, but the doorway blocks the hit. Taking the advantage, the shape takes out its weapon, moves in, and stabs Ollie brutally and repeatedly in the stomach. LJ and Penny see the attack and know it's already too late. There's nothing they can do to help. All they can do is make a run for it. The shape picks up Ollie's dying body and throws it at Penny. The hit knocks her off balance just as she's beginning to descend the stairs, and she goes tumbling down them along with Ollie's body. Wasting no time, the shape makes its move for LJ, who has not yet started down the stairs. LJ attempts to defend himself and swings at the shape's head. The shape moves just slightly and parries the attempt with its shoulder. Before LJ can prepare another swing, the shape is already on him. It grabs the boy by the throat, spins him around, and holds him close against its body. From her landing spot downstairs, Penny recovers from the tumble. It's just in time to see the shape as it stabs LJ twice through the heart. LJ's last words are for his mother to run. Penny flees to the garage for her car. Her purse and keys are still where they fell. She gets into the car, starts it, and clicks the switch attached to her sun visor to open the electric garage door. When the light from the garage door comes on, it reveals the shape standing at the door leading from the house. Terrified, Penny tosses the car into reverse and guns it. She doesn't realize that the garage door hasn't opened all the way. The impact knocks the machine off its track and sends the door crashing back down, effectively blocking the car from going backward. The shape moves in and breaks the driver's side car window. Penny manages to move over to the passenger seat just as the shape tries to reach in and attempt to grab her. Still under the thrall of her survival instincts, Penny opens the passenger side door, gets out of the car, and scrambles out underneath the garage door opening. When she gets back to her feet, she expects to see the shape coming from underneath the garage door after her, but it's not there. Penny looks to the left to see if the shape is coming through the normally locked wooden fence door. It's not there. She looks to the right just in case. No shape there. All the while, Penny has been slowly backing away from the garage door. She's so focused on watching her points that she almost walks off the driveway and into the street. It's the sound of Lou's car horn that startles her back to remembrance. He and Sam have arrived at the house. Penny runs to the men and tells them what the shape has done. That's enough to send Lou into the house in search of the shape, while Sam stays outside with Penny with instruction to call an ambulance. The search turns up empty, however. The shape has already left the house. The bizarre scenario that was too rich for Sam's blood comes back to visit Lou. An idea forms in his mind as to where the shape could be headed to next. While holding the hand of his dead son in one hand, he uses the other one to grab his phone and call Lori. Unfortunately, Lori's phone has been hidden in the room of the eldest child she's babysitting. Tommy Doyle, age 10, took it hostage 5 minutes before the call with the plan to use it as leverage in getting his own phone back from Lori. She'd taken it earlier from him after catching him looking at dirty pictures sent to him by a friend. Lori doesn't know that her phone is missing, and Tommy hasn't let her know that he's taken it. He's in the front room with his 8-year-old sister Lindsay, looking over all of the Halloween candy they've collected and watching a movie. Lori is in the kitchen making a fresh batch of popcorn for herself and the kids. Lori has added the popcorn and she's waiting for it to pop when all of the lights in the house suddenly go out. This startles no one. It's been a random occurrence for the past 2 months since the Doyles got solar panels put onto their house. Because the popcorn she's cooking is being cooked on a gas stove, Lori can't go out and check the fuse herself. She knows that Tommy knows how to turn the box back on and asks if he will go out to do it for her. He does so by going out to the backyard where the fuse box sits against the house and resets it. Lindsay sits in the front room waiting for Tommy to get the electricity back on. When he does, she immediately turns on the television so she can get back to the movie that her and her brother were watching. She never looks over her left shoulder. If she did, she would see that the shape was standing there behind her, watching her. A knock comes from the front door. The direction of the door is over Lindsay's right shoulder, so she never sees the shape walking away. Lori's friend Mariah happens to live next door to the Doyles, so she's not an unexpected sight to see at the front door when Lindsay opens it. Mariah is also aware of the solar panel / fuse box issue, but given the night it is, she comes to check just to make sure everyone is okay. Lori joins Lindsay at the front door and explains that, yep, it was just the fuse box again. She then sends Tommy a loud thank you for getting the lights back on. Tommy, who was on his way upstairs after coming back into the house, accepts the thank you just as loudly. He continues up and onward to his destination, which was the restroom. He enters, closes the door, and proceeds to use it. The position he has to stand in puts his back to the shower, so he never sees as the shower curtain slowly starts to pull open. It's not until Tommy is done using the restroom that he's able to hear the slight sound of the moving metal hooks on the shower rod. Tommy looks back over his shoulder to make sure he isn't hearing things. He sees the shape. For a moment, the boy stands frozen in the grip of terror, before he screams, bolts for the bathroom door, opens it, and flees. Tommy runs downstairs to the front room where Lori, Lindsay, and Mariah are at. He tells him that someone was hiding in the bathroom and that they're still upstairs. Mariah, thinking that Tommy is trying to pull a Halloween prank, bites the bait. She gets up to go investigate, but Tommy stops her, telling her that he thinks it's the boogeyman. When Mariah teases him about being 10 and too old to believe in urban legends, Lori catches her friend's drift and suggests that they go get the boogeyman before he gets them. Tommy tries to keep Lori from going by grabbing onto her arm, but he's light enough for her to drag all the way toward the stairs. Just as everyone is reaching the bottom of the stairs, the shape steps into view at the top. It startles the children. "See? Now let's go," Tommy pleads. But Mariah isn't convinced. She thinks it's Lori's late cousin LJ trying to prank them. She voices this. But Lori knows different. The figure is too built and too tall to be LJ. Plus, the person at the top of the stairs looks exactly like the person who was watching her earlier from school. "Mariah, I think we need to go to your house right now," are Lori's words. The shape begins to descend the stairs. Mariah, Tommy, and Lindsay need no further motivation to run. The children head toward the kitchen and evacuate out the back door. The shape pursues. Hopping the fence to Mariah's house next door, the children make their way to Mariah's back door. The shape doesn't even bother with going over the fence. It breaks right through it as if the fence were never there and continues the pursuit. Just as the children make it into Mariah's house and through the back door, the shape picks up a large rock and hurls it. The rock breaks through the glass of the back door and strikes Mariah in the head mid-flee, knocking her out cold. Lori sends Tommy and Lindsay out of the front door to get help. She tries to revive Mariah before the shape gets to them. It's then that she realizes that the shape is no longer in the backyard anymore. Fearing for Tommy and Lindsay, she runs to the front door and opens it. The shape is there. Lori flees upstairs and hides in the closet in Mariah's parents' room. She's smart, and she uses the walls to climb up with her hands and feet and lodge herself long ways up as close to the ceiling as she can go. The shape enters the room. When it doesn't see Lori in plain sight, it searches the most obvious hiding spot, the closet. When the shape opens it and looks inside, it looks everywhere but up, allowing Lori to evade detection. Meanwhile, outside of the house in the neighborhood, Tommy and Lindsay are spotted by Lou, Penny, and Sam. They pick up the children and, after finding out what's going on, proceed to Mariah's house. Lou enters the house just as the shape is leaving Mariah's parents' room and calls to Lori. Blowing her cover, Lori warns Lou that the shape is in the hallway. Hearing Lori's voice, the shape turns around and returns to the bedroom, just in time to stop Lori from getting out. In her attempt to reverse direction and get away, Lori trips, falls, and hits her head on the edge of the bedside table. The impact knocks her out. Lou gets to the top of the stairs right at this point. He sees the shape still at the door to the bedroom and immediately holds his gun on it, ordering it to freeze. The shape doesn't comply completely. It doesn't move from where it is, but it does turn around to face the person addressing it. Lou orders the shape to get down on its knees and place its hands on its head. When he does this, he uses the name of the Smiths Grove employee, Billy Stewart, to refer to the shape. For a moment, the shape doesn't move at all. When it does, it's not to obey Lou's instruction. It's to close the gap between itself and the police captain. Lou yells a final warning before he's forced to fire his gun a second later. The bullet strikes the shape in the area of its heart. The shape staggers, but it doesn't go down. Lou fires 2 more shots at the same area. That does it. The shape goes down in the hallway. Immediately, Lou goes to check on Lori. As he tries to revive her, the shape sits up and looks over in Lou's direction. It gets to its feet and advances on Lou. Lou doesn't notice that the shape is back up until it's almost upon him. The two engage in a brutal physical fight that leaves the room full of broken furniture and Lou with a broken leg. Unable to move, Lou watches as the shape breaks out the bedroom window, takes Lori, and jumps out of it. Back outside of Mariah's house, hearing the sound of gunshots made Penny throw the front door of the squad car open and attempt to run into the house. But Sam stopped her, and he told her that he would go instead, because there was one thing he had that she didn't: a gun. He'd been packing heat ever since he'd left Smith's Grove. Sam finds Lou on the second floor of the house, where he's told that the shape has Lori. Sam checks the window, but finds the yard below empty. Returning to Lou, Sam helps him contact the police station, where Lou informs his officers that they have a killer at large in town and what procedures to initiate. As Lou does this, Sam has thoughts of his own, thoughts that lead him in an impossible direction. What they are, he doesn't tell. All he tells Lou is that he's going to check Michael's childhood home. Though Lou doesn't want Sam to go alone, he knows that time is of the essence. He tells Sam to aim for the shape's head should a confrontation take place. Since the shape was in his room, he's afraid it may have found and put on the spare bulletproof vest that was in his closet. He also lets Sam know that he will call for police reinforcement to meet him at Michael's childhood home. A short time later, Lori comes to in the bedroom that she once shared with her parents when she was just a baby. She's sitting in a chair, which her hands and legs have been cuffed to. The shape stands watching across the room from her. Near it, against the wall, is Deborah's stolen headstone from the graveyard. For a moment, Lori freaks. She screams and calls for help. And when the shape begins walking toward her, she begs it not to hurt her. Reaching into its pocket, the shape takes out a picture and shows it to Lori. In the picture is a 10-year-old Michael Myers with a 1-year-old Lori sitting in his lap. Deborah Myers Strode, their mother, sits next to Michael. Knowing what she looked like at that age and what her mother looked like from old pictures, Lori asks the shape if the boy in the picture is them. The shape answers by turning the picture over. There's writing on the back. It reads, "Deborah, Michael, and Lori. Me and my babies having a good day." Having noticed the headstone, Lori comes to a realization that to her makes absolutely no sense. But it has to be. Looking up at the shape, Lori asks, "Are you my brother?" The shape responds by handing the picture to Lori, then lowering itself so that both it and Lori's faces are level. Slowly, the shape lifts up its mask to reveal its face to her. Lori looks at the face of the person in front of her. She then looks at the picture in her hand. Both the person before her and the boy in the picture share similar enough qualities to be the same person. That is, with the exception of the blank facial expression and the empty eyes of the man in front of her. It's a total contrast to the lively, bright eyes and happy face of the boy in the picture. Michael Nathaniel Myers is now a 24-year-old man. He's gotten taller, bigger, and a hell of a lot stronger during his transition from childhood to adulthood. His face has been kept clean-shaven, and his looks, while youthful, are otherwise nice. Outside of Michael's old house, Sam arrives and sneaks in through the back door, which he's surprised to find unlocked. He makes it upstairs right as Michael is about to pull his mask back down. While the sight baffles Sam's mind like no other, Sam holds the gun on Michael and calls him by name. Michael turns to look at Sam, fixating his empty eyes on the man. Sam takes his advantage and talks to Michael. "It's Sam," he tells him. "Do you remember me?" Michael doesn't respond. Sam presses further, asking Michael if he can speak. Michael doesn't respond. Trying another avenue, Sam asks if he can come into the room. Michael responds. He stands up from his hunched position and pulls the mask down back over his face. The response doesn't jive well with Sam at all. Bringing his gun to the ready, he commands Michael not to move. He doesn't want to shoot, but he will if he has to. Michael halts. Seeing the response, Sam instructs Michael to back away from Lori. Again, Michael complies. He allows Sam to come into the room to check on Lori. He waits until the moment Sam's attention is completely on Lori before he suddenly strikes. Sam drops the gun in the struggle, forcing Lori to act and acquire it as best she can while handcuffed to a chair. Just as Michael is poised to stab Sam, Lori is able to get the gun and shoots Michael once in the head. Michael goes down. Sam recovers and is on the move. He kicks the knife away from Michael and cautiously checks for a pulse. There isn't one. Sam's head falls for a brief moment. When his head rises, Sam's hands check Michael's pockets. He finds the keys to the handcuffs and goes to free Lori. As she's being freed, Lori asks Sam who he is. Sam tells her that he used to be the doctor of the man who kidnapped her. Looking at Michael, Lori asks Sam if he really was her brother, to which Sam reveals, yes, as a matter of fact, he was. The police reinforcement from Lou chooses that moment to arrive. Despite having to turn Michael's childhood house into a crime scene, the police make sure to get Lori and Sam safely and conspicuously out of the house, reunited with Penny and on their way to the hospital to see Lou and Mariah. But before their departure, two discoveries are made. The first discovery was of the bodies of the Smiths Grove employee and another man in the crawl space underneath Michael's childhood house. The second discovery was of Michael not being dead after all. The paramedics detected a faint pulse when they examined his body. They also found that the bullet that had struck Michael's skull didn't penetrate but ricocheted off instead. Since they can't show prejudice to Michael's life due to his actions, the paramedics have to get him to the hospital to begin life-saving work. In the time, Lori has had a chance to sort a few things out. She looks away from the backseat patrol car window that she was looking out of and asks Penny if Michael is the child from the rumors about the house and why she was never told that he was her brother. Sighing, Penny tells Lori that she's been through enough for the night, but promises to tell Lori everything once things are back to normal. Lori persists, telling her aunt that nothing will ever be normal again after tonight. She needs to know everything, especially because Michael is still alive. What if he gets well and tries to come after her again? Penny assures Lori that her Uncle Lou will make sure that that never happens, but she does agree to tell Lori about Michael. It's as Penny begins to tell Lori about her big brother that we the viewers step away and Halloween comes to an end. And that, everybody, is the pitch for 1031. And for those of you who have seen the John Carpenter and the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, I hope you can see where changes were made and tributes were paid. Even the original, even certain parts that weren't made by John Carpenter and Rob Zombie. But in all honesty, I've always liked that Rob Zombie did an origin story for Michael, which is not in the John Carpenter one. But back in the days of the John Carpenter original, that was back when you could get away with a sparse origin that they give for Michael and a simple explanation as to why he is the way he is. And when they get into that explanation, they just simply say that there is no rhyme or reason to Michael. He does what he does simply because he's pure evil. And like nowadays, you can't take that angle because the audience is more savvy and the audience is more intelligent. And even when it comes to horror, the audience wants their movie to be more intelligent. So nowadays, if you tried to go with that, they would tell you that that was poor or lazy writing. And therefore, you would get bagged on because of that. So that is not to say that Rob Zombie did everything right with his origin story, though. Because for those of you who have seen it, I feel like he took the easy way out when it came to Michael's origin story, because that was literally Devil Rejects Part 2 or Devil Rejects the early years. Like, you could tell that that was what that was, and it made it so cliche that it wound up hurting the story more than it wound up helping. Like, if they were going to do it, they should have did that a little bit better, but such as it is, it exists as it does. And that's why I wanted my origin story for Michael to be more in line with what you see in the John Carpenter original. Michael appears to come from what looks like a normal, average, middle-class family. So we're led to believe that Michael, in turn, is an average, normal child. And I wanted to show how it might be possible for a normal, average child to turn into this brutal, vicious killer that we know so well. And I wanted to do it in a way that would be plausible, incredibly plausible. So much so that it would make people think that this is something that could be going on right next door to them, and they would never know it until stuff cracked off. And I also wanted to reintroduce the concept of family with this. Now, this is trivia for those who have seen the John Carpenter original, but did you know that there is no mention of Laurie or Michael being brother and sister in the original? Yeah. Initially, they weren't supposed to be. That got added in the second film as a way to give Michael more rhyme or reason for why he murdered all of Laurie's friends and then why he turned around and went after her. That's why in the John Carpenter 2019 Halloween, they switched that back up and said that they were never related to begin with. Because, of course, that one was the one that wrote out the events from part 2 and blah, blah, blah. It was beautiful. For those of you who have seen that one, it was beautiful. I didn't like it. I didn't really feel it, but, it is what it is. But I liked having Laurie and Michael be related. Like, that to me was something solid, and that needed to stay. Like, that made everything scarier to me. And I forget which movie it was I was watching, but in it, somebody said the line, "Every family has a secret." And my immediate thought after hearing that, for whatever reason, was, well, what if your family's secret was Michael Myers? And I like that for Laurie's setup because it still allowed Michael to be a stranger to her and something that's foreign to her. And it gives it a greater impact in the end when she finds out that he's her brother that she never knew, instead of just some random psycho who came after her, just because. I felt like that gave it more gravity and gave it a lot more weight. And I also felt that it was more impactful as a twist to have the majority of those that Michael comes into conflict with be his own family members instead of just Laurie and her friends. Like, that was kind of detached, and I just wanted to make things stronger when it came to this. A good family is going to do everything they can to protect each other, and that's what makes them the biggest targets to be put down, because Michael knows that they're going to stand in his way. And as you can see, he is not about that. He'll put you down if you try and stand in his way. So, on that note, I know some are going to feel that I nerfed Dr. Loomis as a character. But in my opinion, you can't do that character now the same way you would do it in the original. There's too many holes you would have to fill. One being that mental health is something people are more aware of nowadays than they were way back in the early 80s, late 70s. So people aren't going to accept, once again, like I said earlier, the whole he's pure evil as Michael's diagnosis. Like, if that's what a psychiatrist gave you as a diagnosis for somebody, oh, he's pure evil. Like, what would you do about that? You would look at them and be like, oh, really? Well, can you give us some more better diagnosis than he's just pure evil? Like, come on now. And he made this diagnosis. Like, we never find out how he made that in the original. From what we get, he just looked into Michael's eyes and saw it. So that was one thing. And then another thing was, how does Dr. Loomis know anything about Michael or what he's capable of? Unresponsive to me means unresponsive. Like, he was unresponsive in the original one. He didn't talk. He didn't do anything. He didn't move. He just sat there. So how in the world did Dr. Loomis know all of that stuff? How did he even get all of that stuff? So those are the things that I was looking to feel, and I just did it this way because I felt like it just made things coalesce better. That's what we're told that, because Michael was in that facility from the time he was a child into the time he broke out. So the same amount of space that you see in this one, that's a good decade. That's over a decade that he's been there, So I don't get it. But I felt that the original had it right all the way up until the diagnosis. Like, I like the whole flow of the original over Rob Zombie's until you get to that diagnosis when it comes to the evil part. So that was the direction I wanted to go for Sam. I wanted him to come in like he did in the original, which was after Michael had become unresponsive. But I felt like that would go ahead and that would add more things to his goal list. Like, he's trying to figure out what's wrong with him the whole time, but he never did figure it out because Michael was always in that unresponsive state. So he could never figure it out, and then that's why he turned around and gave up. So I felt like Sam never finding out those answers, despite his best efforts, helped him in making. I felt like that helped make him a more open-ended and well-rounded character later on when Michael is grown, because then that makes Dr. Loomis's or Sam's motivation no longer just about stopping the evil, which is in the John Carpenter original. Now he wants to see if somehow, some way, it's possible that Michael, the only patient he was never able to help, is back up and going again. Like, that's what he's thinking about, and he doesn't even believe it in the beginning. Because in that motivation, it allows him to be the skeptical voice of reason instead of the fanatical voice of doom that he is in the original. Because ultimately, he doesn't think it's possible that Michael is up and about and doing what he's doing. And I like that little twist because it allowed for Michael's reveal at the end to be just as much of a surprise for Sam as it is for everybody else. And I hope you guys did like that little red herring in there about it possibly being the employee of Smith's Grove who was going around and doing the killings, because I felt like that made things a lot more interesting and added an element that we've never seen in a Halloween movie before, that the killer is not Michael Myers. Because when you think about it, what is the defining feature about Michael Myers? That white Halloween mask. Nobody knows what Michael Myers looks like underneath that mask. We still, to this day, do not really fully know what he looks like under that mask. Like, you could look back at it in the old movies and you might get glimpses or like pieces of his face, but we still don't know what Michael Myers looks like under that mask. So that means anybody could go out and get that exact same mask and make the exact same profit. You know what I'm saying? Especially when this is the first time that anybody has ever seen this take place. Anybody could have been Michael Myers, so to speak. And yeah, I did actually toy around with the idea of the red herring being the actual killer, but I decided against it because, number one, I couldn't get it to fit with the rest of the story well, and then it just took everything way off track and in a completely different direction, and it was supposed to be focused on Michael and everything else. I think that people would have felt that it was a ripoff if I did it that way, so I just, ended that and left it as it was. But I do hope that everyone found out found that Michael, aka The Shape, what's that? Garbage Day. Thank you, Crow. I'm so glad you let me know it was Garbage Day. I appreciate that. But um, I do hope that everybody found Michael, aka The Shape, up to par. I didn't want him to be a one-dimensional character at all, as you guys could tell. So I couldn't go completely with the silent, watchful, stalkerish Michael of the original, because we used to bag on him back in the day for being so slow that it was a wonder he ever caught up to anybody to kill him once they ran. But I couldn't go completely with the Rob Zombie, aggressive, brutal Michael, because then you might as well just call him Jason. So I figured that when he's plotting, he'd be like he was in the original. But when he takes action, he'd be the aggressive and brutal version that you've seen in the Rob Zombie versions. But I also wanted to add one of the subtleties from the original, which is the level of Michael's intelligence. I wanted him to make decisions based on his objective, which is Lori first, everything else second. And that opened him up to things like allowing targets to escape if they were taking him too far away from his objective. And I'm pretty sure you guys noticed that if they took him too far away, he would come back. So my goodness, let's go ahead and get ready to wrap this up, because wow, we're coming up on 40 minutes. So that's about it. And the only thing that I was gonna go ahead and do is just show the characters, or the people that I would have chosen to play the different characters. So unfortunately, I don't have one for Michael. But imagine that Michael is like a big, like hulking, like scary dude. Like when you see him, you wouldn't want to mess with him in a dark alley, and you wouldn't definitely want to mess with him in a light alley either. So for those characters I do have, let's go with Deborah. For Deborah, I would like to go ahead and I would like to see Kimberly Elise play her. She played in a couple of movies that I really enjoyed. Beloved, like that's actually a black horror movie, and I'm gonna do a movie review about that either this year or beginning of next year. Very good movie, and I would choose her to be Deborah. She's got the perfect look for that. Big Sister Penny will be played by Loretta Devine. Doesn't she look like a big sister? She look like she would just tell you something and just keep you in check, all which ways and plus. So Loretta Devine for Big Sister Penny. And of course, you should know who I'm going to choose for Lou. You can't say no to Ving Rhames. You can't say no to Ving Rhames, because you need a big dude to take on a big dude. And Ving Rhames was the first person I saw when it came to who Lou would be. And of course, last but certainly not least, when it comes to Dr. Loomis, there's only one person you could choose if you're going with the African American cast. And you guys should know who that is. Come on. Obvious, right? Obvious. Mr. Morgan Freeman himself. And Pee Wee Herman as my... Crow, you're messing up my whole spiel, dude. Pee Wee Herman as Michael Myers. That's beautiful. That's gorgeous. Yes. Yes, tonight. It will happen. It will happen. But yes, definitely Morgan Freeman as Dr. Sam Loomis. So those would be my characters for that. And just before I get ready to shut things down, just a quick background on this. This was the beginning. Nelson Mandela. Now we can't do that. Can't do that. Well, he did play Nelson Mandela, so yes, that would be perfect. That would be right. So you are not incorrect, my friend. But you made me forget what I was going to talk about. Okay, well, there we go. All right, so to go ahead and round things out, 1031 was the first pitch. It was the beginning of the Urban Tales. And what the Urban Tales were was, I'm pretty sure I've explained it to you guys before, but what the Urban Tales was, it was an idea that I had way back in 2013. That's where this pitch comes from, 2013. It was on the original station. But it has since been updated and presented in 2019 for you guys all here and now. And back then, what I was trying to do is, this is before Jordan Peele. This is before Get Out. This is before, Us. This is before anybody was taking an interest in this type of a thing. And the urban tales were my idea of what I wanted to do was take all of your 80s horror movie classic villains, like, Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy Krueger. Like, I wanted to take all of them and I wanted to urbanize them, so to speak. And for those who don't know what urbanize means, it means to take your cast, or at least in movies, it means to take your cast and make it's a predominantly African American cast dealing with predominantly African American things. But horror is not a predominantly African American thing. It's very few in the horror genres that you ever see African Americans dealing with. Or anytime you do see them, usually they're the first ones to die. And so I wanted to get rid of that stereotype way back in 2013. And this was the beginning of it. This was the first urban tale, 1031. And of course, if you guys have been on the site, you know that the second urban tale was Black Friday, which is Friday the 13th. So you should know that there's going to be a third urban tale, and you should know who that's going to be once it comes out. And that's probably going to be next year, I'm hoping. So on that note, the long journey is over. I would like to thank you all for watching, and a big thanks to those who came out and participated in the chat, or just even came out and just watched. I really appreciate you guys very much. And for those who didn't get to catch this live, please feel free to use that comment section. That's what it's there for. Give your thoughts and give your ideas. Like I said, even if you didn't like it, I don't care if you voted down. Just let me know what it was that you didn't like so I can make it better. Vote it up if you did like it, and tell me what you did like about it. And then, of course, like I said in the very beginning, this was a format check. So this version was done in the original format, which 1031 was done this way back in 2013. But Black Friday and They Still Live were done with the synopsis format. So let me know which one you guys like more. And that'll be the format going forward for the rest of the pitches, for the rest of the shows. So thank you guys one more time. Thank you guys. And on that note, I have been Paiper Zombie, and this is the end of 1031. Or is it?